Thank you for attending today. We're here at Northwestern Medicine Living Well Cancer Resources. We're in their beautiful kitchen, and this is the Eating Well class, which is designed for people who are active in treatment. This is class 2, and the title is How to Make the Most of Each Bite and Sidelining Side Effects. And then there's 2 more classes after this. It's always on a Wednesday, and it'll be at 12 noon. I'm Nancy Zawicki. I'm a registered dietitian with Northwestern Medicine. I work full-time at the Del Nor Cancer Center, and always love being here. And just to begin, one of the topics is called How to Make the Most of Each Bite. So that's for people who are struggling with their appetite and they're trying to hold on to their weight, but they have side effects that cause less of an appetite and they have taste changes possibly. So it becomes a big challenge. So what we tend to do is suggest small, frequent meals and snacks. Try to have protein with each meal and snack, but then use fats to help increase the calories. So say you were going to have mashed potatoes, homemade mashed potatoes, boil your potatoes, and then when I'm doing it for a dinner party, I add cream cheese and butter, but you can do that now because you want to make it richer. You can even add a gravy. Just because this is kind of a comfort food, but you've just loaded up with calories. So that will help a lot. But eating calorie-packed meals and snacks can make you feel better and keep your energy up. And doing the small, frequent meals and snacks, and then eating every couple hours is a good way to get your calories in. Some people aren't used to that routine, so we suggest setting a timer just to remind you, oh, it's time to eat. Or, if you're still feeling okay and you get involved in a project, time can just fly. So you do want to stay on that regimen as best you can. We suggest that you not eat your favorite foods when you're not feeling so great, because we want them to be your favorite foods later. But if you're feeling nauseous and get sick with one of your favorite foods, you may not want to go back to that. Eat when you feel hungry. And then just keep that regimen. You can keep ready to eat foods on hand. There's so many like little containers of things like little yogurts or cottage cheese. But if you feel up for spooning cottage cheese into a dish, that's actually more economical. When you buy things like yogurt or cottage cheese, try to get the whole milk variety because there again, you're adding those extra fat calories. Myself, I would probably choose the low-fat variety. So you have choices. And then you can also use nutritional beverages too to supplement your intakes. So we talked about these last time. These over here are higher in protein. They're 30 grams of protein in one of these cartons, but they're not very high in calories. So if you're not diabetic and you choose this because it does have a good taste, you can even add ice cream to it or whole milk just to get a little extra calories. This one is called Ensure Max, and this has 30 grams of protein. But again, it's not very high in calories. It's 150 calories. This is designed for people who are diabetic for help controlling their blood sugar. And then this one is superpower. It's Boost Very High Calories, so Boost VHC. And this is packed with 530 calories in this little carton, and it's got 22 grams of protein. With some of these, because they are richer, I would suggest taking a little shot glass and pouring it into a shot glass, and every 15 minutes, drink it down. And that way you'll get through it. And do that within the hour, try to get it down. If you're going to extend it longer, put it in the refrigerator in between time. I would suggest not drinking it out of the carton unless you're going to finish this whole thing in the one sitting, because you get saliva in there and that can break down the product. So pouring it, it's got a nice pour spout, pouring it into a little glass and drink it down is helpful. And people who are having trouble with swallowing, this has been a great lifesaver just to get those calories in without having to eat solid food. This product is called Ensure Complete. It's 30 grams of protein and 350 calories, so it's high in calories, but we don't recommend this if you're going through chemo because it's too high in antioxidants. If you were not doing chemo and you're still struggling to get your calories in, then you can have it. And then let's see, this is another good one. If you're not diabetic, it's got 16 grams of protein, so not super high, but it's high in calories, 350 calories. People tend to like this, and if you chill it, it even tastes better. But some people have cold sensitivity, so they'd have to drink at room temperature. And then we've got Orgain products. This is a new one that came out the end of 2024. It has 30 grams of protein and 160 calories. So it's very similar to the Ensure Max, but it's made by Orgain. And this one does contain milk. And then we have, this one's plant protein. So if someone is lactose free or they're vegetarian, they can choose this. This has 16 grams of protein and let's see the calories. Oh, 250 calories, I believe. And then we have one that's dairy, and that's Orgain, but it's grass-fed. So many options. There's even more out there. These are the ones we tend to recommend at the Cancer Center. So ways to get extra calories. You can also just take whole milk yogurt, put it in a blender with different fruit, like a banana and maybe some canned peaches, and make a little smoothie out of it. That's if you're having like some digestive issues. So those are very bland type fruits that you can add, but you can also do berries if you want. But getting that protein source as yogurt is good. And some people use a protein powder too to make a smoothie. But you don't, if you're going to have a smoothie, you don't want it to just be all fruit, because then you're not getting the protein. So look for that. I think they have some pre-made smoothie mixes, but you're looking for getting protein as well as higher calories. And you can even make a milkshake too. That's totally fine. Some people even just opt for chocolate milk, just for a higher calorie. I know like an Oberweis is very rich. So even something like that, just for extra calories. Continuing on with making the most of each bite, you can add whipped cream to desserts, pancakes, waffles, and this is to get extra calories. You can use like whole milk cottage cheese and add that to your eggs when you're cooking them, and to casseroles. And then soups are also a good way. Sometimes people even put a little bit of olive oil in their soup. If you want, you can do that. Or if you make a cream soup, you can do more with whole milk or even a little bit of heavy cream for the calories. Adding sour cream, not low fat, but regular sour cream to baked potatoes or vegetables, or if you made like a taco dish, like a tostado, but very bland, you can add sour cream to it. And then if you can tolerate nuts or seeds, adding those to different foods can be helpful. Cashews are very soft. I think a lot of people like cashews. This can even be something to snack on too. But just remember with nuts that your mouth starts the digestion process. It's called mechanical digestion. When you use your teeth to chew food well, you're breaking the foods down. So, and eat slowly and enjoy your food. That can be helpful. And then ways to increase protein. So this right here is not a good example because we're wanting to avoid the runny yolk. But if you had, it's a food model. If you had an egg, you could do a hard-boiled egg and make an egg salad out of it using mayonnaise and however you like to make them. And that could be good. You can just spoon it on a cracker if you want, or eat it out of a dish, or make a sandwich. Peanut butter is also awesome. You can add it to, I like peanut butter and a banana. That's tasty, or an apple, or on crackers. I think sometimes when I have my grandkids over, I don't know, people think that it always has to be like those pre-made peanut butter crackers. You can just open saltines and put peanut butter on it, kind of the old-fashioned way. So those can be good. Even having eggs for dinner, I'll do that if my husband's out of town and I don't want to cook. I'll just have eggs with an English muffin or something for dinner. You can have them any time of day, and you can add cheese to the eggs for more protein. You can even add vegetables to them too. And then avocado, I didn't have a food model of that. We love avocado over here because it's got more calories to it, and it's very bland, but you can doctor it up for more flavor. But even making an avocado toast is very popular. Taking a piece of toast, if you can tolerate the whole grain, that's good because you'll get extra fiber. And then spread the mashed avocado on there. put an egg, however you like, whether it's hard boiled and sliced up or a scrambled egg. And then some people put some tomato on it too. And we like to put a little bit of that nothing but the bagel seasoning for extra flavor. But that's very filling and it's a good complete meal. But even just mashing up avocado and eating it with a tortilla chip or even with saltines is very good. And you can just put lime juice or lemon juice on it if you can tolerate the citrus, and it's very good. And then, of course, the whole milk dairy adds to the calories. So if remember to eat as healthfully as you're able to, depending on any side effects. And if you are experiencing any side effects, when the dietitian comes to see you, you can talk to her about it, or you can always call the cancer center where you go to and ask for the dietitian for some more help. Keep in mind that it's not usually a food that causes a symptom, it's the side effect of the chemo agent. So that's what you're trying to manage. And then with a loss of appetite, that's very common for people getting cancer treatment, whether it's chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, or just the whole stress of the situation. And sometimes medications can contribute too. But we'll hear people say, I still eat though, because I know I need to maintain my weight and get my nutrition in. And that's very true. Sometimes even just taking your anti-nausea medication can help with that appetite too. Because sometimes nausea can be very sneaky. It could just show up as, that's weird, I'm not hungry for lunch. That can be an early sign of nausea. So experiment, take your over-the-counter anti-nausea medication and see if that helps. And then again, avoiding like a big plate of food, because that's an automatic turnoff. Do small, commonly liked foods. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Things like eggs and nuts and all that. But skipping meals and not eating can lead to weight loss, tiredness, fatigue, muscle loss, and that's what you're trying to avoid. Weight loss during cancer treatment can be dangerous and result in the loss of lean body mass, which is very hard to get back, and that can impact your overall health and tolerance of treatment. And even just moving around the house like every hour is good for your muscles too. It's just that activity, or even if you're sitting in a chair and want to do, lifts with this or a can, that can be good for your arms. But then there's reasons to call your oncologist if you're having these concerns, where you can't control your nausea or you cannot eat for more than a day. You should call in. Losing weight of more than 5 pounds rapidly is not good. If you cannot urinate or have a bowel movement, and then vomiting for more than 24 hours, something else is going on. You should call in to get some advice. So again, we were saying small, frequent meals and snacks, add extra nutrition to those meals by increasing the fat in your diet, and then be sure to get a protein source with each meal and snack. So for example, you could have a hard-boiled egg or a scrambled egg with a piece of toast for breakfast. Mid-morning, have maybe some yogurt and fruit. For lunch, maybe a half a sandwich or a bowl of soup if you'd like. Afternoon could be some cheese and crackers, or it could be hummus and some vegetables, or even a little nutmeg mixture. Dinner, if you can try to do like a smaller portions, but a meat, potato, vegetable. And then in the evening, if you want to have one of these beverages or have more like a milkshake, and kind of see about not eating too late at night. You have to be your own detective of knowing yourself and seeing if that bothers you eating in the evening. But maybe by 7 o'clock, if you wanted to have a little treat, but include, like, even if you had some little cookies, have a glass of milk with it to get the protein, would be fine. When you're going through treatment, we're not trying to restrict you on foods. When we do your chemo education, kind of like what we talked about last week, it's more food safety and good hand washing. And then we're pretty much, you can have whatever you want if it meets the food safety guidelines. And then I know sugar is a big question, but if you're eating meals where you're getting some good nutrition, then a little bit of treat or something is okay. We're not the food police. You know, we want you to eat and we want you to manage side effects so that you can still enjoy food. So, and then as you get closer to the end of treatment and you're feeling better, or even when you finish treatment and you move on to just getting back to your normal routine, then we have that Being Well class, which focuses on the Mediterranean way of eating, and that's what you'll end up going. Because we don't, sometimes we'll hear people say, well, I don't know what I can eat. But really, we're not restricting you. We just want you to keep good food safety in mind and good food storage. That's the important thing. But keep foods that are low prep on hand. You know, we talked last time about the program Fox Valley Food for Health. If you live within 13 miles of Living Well or the Delnor Cancer Center, you would be eligible. So you contact them to get the meals delivered to you. It's 4 dinners, 2 soups, and a low sugar dessert. Or if family and friends are able to help you too, that's really nice. But if you are having people help you with meals, then just tell them the importance of food safety and that if they have colds or sickness, not to be preparing food. You know, you have to kind of be your own advocate to protect yourself. And you can say it in a nice way, where it's not offensive. And then we were saying how sitting down to a big plate of meals is overwhelming. I remember my mother when she was like in her 90s, we're at a wedding and they served the big plate of food and she was like, I can't even eat it, because it was an automatic turnoff to see that much food sitting there. That can happen with people going through treatment too. So start with smaller amounts and then you can always have a second helping. And then sometimes if you're able to eat with somebody, that's helpful. It kind of takes your mind off of the whole eating process. But I know for years we say don't eat from the TV because it can lead to overeating. But in this situation, if you're living alone or, you know, watching the news or whatever you like when your game shows, it's okay to eat in front of the TV then. And then also taking advantage of the time of day that you know for yourself, you eat better. Sometimes people say breakfast is their best meal. So economize on that. That would be helpful. And just a side note, when you come in for treatment for chemo, you should have breakfast before you come and then bring a little cooler or whatever with foods that your lunch or snacks. But the cancer center cannot microwave anything. So you just have to have everything ready next to your chair. So, but there are snacks at the cancer center, but if you're there for lunch, you know, bring a lunch, you know, you don't want to be skipping meals. And then taste and smell changes. That can be one of our taste changes are one of our hardest side effects to manage. It's very frustrating for people. It's a result of the chemo, but food just doesn't taste the same and can almost have a very weird taste to them. So using like lemon juice can spark up some flavors, but then that's if you don't have any mouth sores. Or sometimes foods that have a vinegar base, like ketchup, barbecue sauce, pickles, olives, those can help cut through the weird taste. But again, if you don't have a mouth sore, or even just adding more spices to the food can help. Again, if you don't have a mouth sore. But yeah, just even like just some herbs too, like blander herbs like dill. We're using dill in the recipe we're doing today. The aroma is beautiful and that can give more flavor, but it doesn't have any side effects for the mouth sores. And then as far as metallic taste, that also is a weird sensation. We would recommend using plastic silverware so you're not coming in contact with metal. Don't drink out of a can or even a metal water bottle. Get a glass water bottle or even a plastic one, I guess. Or at home, drink out of a glass, just so you're not touching the metal part. And you can cook in glass dishes and just avoid using cast iron cookware because that can enhance the metallic taste. So we do have a mouth rinse, but it's a simple recipe you can do at home. You take a quart of water, put it in a pitcher, and then just add a teaspoon of baking soda and a teaspoon of salt. You just mix it up and keep it in your bathroom with a little cup. and then just, you're not drinking it. You're just going to swish it in your mouth and then spit it out. And you do that before and after you eat, and that can cleanse your mouth. And it's just a very simple little recipe, but patients have told us that it's a good tip. It helps. If you're having mouth sores, even getting biotin, it's a no alcohol mouthwash, can be helpful too. So one way, if you have baking soda and you haven't baked for a long time and you haven't used it for a long time, you could test it. You can put a little bit of baking soda in a dish and pour a little bit of the distilled vinegar in, and if it fizzes up like a volcano, it's still good, it's still active. Because if we've had baking soda for a long time, you can save it and use it for cleaning. Some people use it to clean their tub or whatever, but it won't give the same effect, for the mouth rinse. So you might have to get some new stuff. Okay, and then some other taste changes continuing on. Limes, lemons, vinegars like balsamic vinegar, red wine vinegar, those are all wonderful. They really wake up the taste buds. And then condiments such as a spicy mustard, relish, barbecue sauce, and ketchup. Those are all good flavor enhancers. But again, if you have the mouth sore, to avoid it. If you have a mouth sore, then you would want to eat more soft, bland type foods, things that aren't irritating. People who have a mouth sore should avoid spicy food, citrusy foods, vinegary, hard, crunchy foods, and also fried food, because those can touch that area and kind of put you through the roof, If you don't have the mouth sore, you can add lemon slices to a pitcher of water to give it some good flavor. Some people do cucumber or berries. And then dry mouth, that can be a problem for people. You can check with your dentist too, but it does make you more susceptible to cavities and infection. So it's important to have good oral care. So when you use a soft toothbrush and brush gently, don't be vigorous, so you don't want to scrape your mouth. And also hot food, you let it cool just a bit so you don't unnecessarily get a blister in your mouth. So you want to protect that whole area. Sometimes having like lemon heads, something lemony, like a hard candy, if you can get sugar-free, that's probably even better. But just to have that in your mouth in between meals, just to add some moisture. Some people will freeze grapes and just have something like that. Or even fruit can be comforting too, to add some moisture to your mouth. And also just to avoid alcohol and citrus beverages if you have the dry mouth, tobacco use, and then limit your caffeine. Usually we say 1 cup of caffeine a day is fine. And then a sore mouth, again, is just keeping that mouth clean, and don't use any alcohol mouthwashes. Biotin or that saltwater solution are alcohol free, so that's good. And then avoiding like tomato products and citrus are all very high in acid that could be harmful or irritating, I guess you'd say. When you have a sore mouth or painful swallowing, try to avoid extreme temperatures. Choose cool room temperature foods. I didn't really touch on smells, but like this time of year where it's cold out, you might want to use a crock pot. You could even set your crock pot in the garage maybe, or in a laundry room where it's away from the regular house, and let it cook in there so smells are not filling the whole house. That can be hard for some people who are having a smell issue. And then eating more room temperature foods or colder foods, you avoid that smell too. Can be challenging. And then softer type foods like a scrambled egg with cheese. You can take tuna salad or egg salad or chicken salad and add mayonnaise, and you can doctor it accordingly to how you like to make it. Sometimes a little celery, sometimes even some dried fruit like dried cherries in your chicken salad can be very good. With your soups, you can add protein to it, like ground meats. You can even add beans if you don't have digestive issues. Beans are good. They're a vegetable source of protein. And then using your dairy products too. If you are having really bad pain with the mouth sores, you can call in to triage and get a prescription for magic mouthwash. That numbs your mouth for, I think it's like 15 minutes to allow you to eat. But if you have you could also try Helios. It's a swish and spit it out, and that's for mouth sores. but there's contraindications. People who have a history of seizures or liver disease, they should not use that product. So it's in the stores like a Walgreens, but you may have to just Google it and order it if you want to try that. But it's called Helios, so you can see that on the slide there. But that's for extra sensitive mouth. So with nausea and vomiting, number one is take your anti-nausea medication. And if you're not sure how to do it, because there's like 1, 2, 3, depending on what you're prescribed, you need to check next time you're in, check with the nurse, have them go through it, or call in to triage and say, you know, this isn't working for me. Am I doing this right? And they may have to tweak things or check with the doctor if they have to order something else. But that's number one. That's going to help control your nausea and vomiting. And you have to keep up with it too. Another thing, we have this at the Cancer Center. If you're there and you want to ask for a few, they're called tummy drops. We can give you a few samples to try them first. They're a little hard candy and they have ginger in them. And that can be something like if you have just slight nausea, you can try one of these. But it's not to replace your anti-nausea medication. I know like Trader Joe's has ginger candies. Anything with ginger really is helpful for the nausea. You can even buy the fresh ginger root, peel the skin off and take a chunk of it and let it steep in the tea you're making. Maybe you could get a peppermint tea or just even a regular tea that you enjoy, and try to stay with US brands like Tazo, Bigelow, Twinings. Those are all good brands. Put a hunk of ginger in it and let it kind of steep in there and then taste it, and just little sips. It helps with gastric emptying. So it does have a soothing effect. We like to use ginger in cooking too, where we mince it, and that's helpful. It's anti-inflammatory and it adds some good flavor, and like the smells are really, really good. And then sipping on liquids too. It's really important to avoid dehydration. You want 8 8-ounce glasses of liquid a day. And so even getting a water bottle that has the markings on it, so as you drink, you can see how much you've consumed. It's really important to stay on top of that. I know myself, when I was younger, we weren't carrying those water bottles around. If we were outside playing, we'd look for the garden hose, you know, or we'd drink when we were thirsty. But now we just know so much that keeping up with it. So divide those 8 8-ounce glasses of liquid throughout the day so that you reach that. If you're finding that hard, then just keep in mind that if you had a bowl of soup for lunch, that counts. Even that 1 cup of coffee will count. It's not the best, but it does contribute. And then, like as it gets warmer out, when more fruits and vegetables are around, like tomatoes, the juiciness, those fluids contribute, like watermelon, and just the high water content fruits and vegetables can contribute to fluid. And then with nausea, try to have some dry foods like cereal, crackers. Those can be helpful with keep them on hand, like maybe before getting out of bed, having some of those foods. Avoiding greasy fried foods that can be very hard to digest, and avoid overeating. That's why that small frequent meals and snacks is good, because you avoid that overfull feeling where you're like, I don't really want to eat again for later. And then cook in a well ventilated room so you're not dealing with all the smells, and then including the ginger type candies or teas are very good. And then with diarrhea, that can be a common side effect from chemotherapies or certain medications or even radiation. You should talk to your oncologist. They may need to prescribe something. Usually we say keep Imodium on hand, but if that's not doing the trick, you can ask for a prescription, usually Lamodal or whatever else they have, they can recommend. But we don't want you to suffer with that. You should, ask. And then if you are taking Imodium, you follow the package instructions of how to use it. And then you do need to increase your fluids and your electrolytes. So maybe getting some Gatorade or Pedialyte would be very helpful. But that can be something, if it becomes a big problem, you should call in about that. But then there are certain foods that are more bulking, like bananas are very good. Peanut butter on like a white bread or just peanut butter. The other thing, cheeses, crackers, apples, like if you take the skin off and you had a peeled apple, or you could cut it up and steam it, like almost like making an applesauce, the pectin in the apples can be very helpful for causing bulking. Or peaches. And then if you don't have any trouble with lactose, including some yogurt too, to help bring back that flora, is very good. If you are having bad diarrhea, stay away from, kind of go to a low fiber diet where you're staying away from the skins of fruits and salads, and go to more white breads to kind of help manage that. And hopefully it resolves itself after some time. Some people have the opposite problem with constipation. So with that, just making sure you're getting your fluids in. The 64 ounces is so important. And with that, you'd increase your fiber, like using whole grains or oatmeal. Some people even do warmed up prune juice, like a little cup. You can microwave it and sip on that. But then also probably taking like Senecot or talking to your nurse to see what they recommend for you to help relieve that problem. But warm liquids can be helpful. And then increasing your fiber with vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains. And just some people end up keeping a log, just like with their weight in there, what symptoms they're noticing, what their GI symptoms are, just so when they do see the doctor next time, if it helps them remember what the pattern was, if you have to ask more information on that. Okay, and we're going to skip over to gas now. That can be a problem for people. With that, you want to be careful with swallowing a lot of air. So not to talk when you're chewing or eating. Chew with your mouth closed. Don't use a straw because that can add extra air. Avoid chewing gum, and then avoid carbonated beverages. But a lot of this is you being your own detective. If you see a cause and effect on certain foods, or maybe milk or dairy products are bothering you, which you weren't really aware of before. So with that, you can get a lactose-free milk, which really, to me, it tastes the same, and looking for lactose-free dairy products. They're out there. And then at that time, if you're having gas, avoid the cruciferous vegetables like the cabbage, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower. Those can contribute to the gas, and even beans and lentils as well. Eating too many high fiber foods can contribute to gas, so just keeping that in mind. And then some people are sensitive to sugar substitutes or artificial sweeteners. I mean, there is some in the Premier Protein. So it's usually a sugar alcohol like sorbitol. You want to just try to avoid those. Some people are sensitive. So I'll give you an example. When I get a Starbucks in the morning, I get a skim milk latte. I just do 1 pump of the hazelnut. I don't want their sugar-free product, because I try to avoid that. So it doesn't mean sugar-free is good if you were trying to watch your weight. Just reduce the intake of it because some people are sensitive to artificial sweeteners. All right, so these are like a ground turkey meatball. And I was looking at the recipe and all it called for was like a grated lemon, and then fresh dill, and then the ground turkey. And then you add those meatballs right into the hot soup. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if what's going to hold them together. Like I was kind of thinking it might just fall apart once you put it in the broth. So I decided to add an egg, and I used some panko breadcrumbs too, just to give it some binding and hold it together. So let's see. Okay. So they look pretty good. They're holding their shape, so that's good. And I was even thinking when you serve this, you might want to just pour the soup into a bowl and then ask the person how many meatballs they want. And that way, for storage, if you have leftover, it'll store better. Or you can freeze those too, and they're nice and whole. All right, so what we're going to make here, I cut up carrots, a couple carrots. And then we've got celery. So wash the celery because, usually there's always some dirt on the celery. So just, I usually make it a little bit smaller. And then some onion. We chop up onion and you pour a little olive oil and those 3 vegetables into a pot and let them saute a bit till they're tender. And then I add the broth. if you were to throw the vegetables in the pot and then right away add the soup, they're going to be kind of hard. So they need to sweat first. So I use a pot, I put a lid on it, and I let them sweat. So you see moisture form on the lid, and use a fork to see that they're fork tender. I'm just going to add a little bit of celery in it. It might be a little bit crunchy, but that's a little bit's okay, crunchy. So ended up using 2 containers of this reduced sodium chicken broth. And I like using reduced sodium. We don't need all that extra salt. We try to use like the lemon and then the dill for flavor. You can, if this were not eating well and it would be being well, I would have added some fresh garlic, maybe black pepper. But because this is more of trying to be more soothing, I wouldn't have done that. When I read on the website where we got this, it just said like the broth wasn't real flavorful. So that's why I would have probably added some more things, but we're not looking for strong flavors right now. We just want it to be kind of a mild soup. So now that the broth, I turned it up to boiling, and I added 3/4 cup or 1 3/4 cup of bulgur. And so we'll see what happens. It should thicken it a little bit. But it was nice to use fresh dill. When you start cutting dill, the aroma is beautiful, and it's a very mild flavor. So if you have leftover dill, you can, add it to salmon, or you can make a dip out of it. Just use it up. You don't want these herbs to go bad in the refrigerator. You could even put it in a little glass with water so that holds the freshness. But the fresh herbs this time of year are a little bit more expensive. That's why here at Living Well in the summer, we have a garden and we grow all this, so we can just go out and pick what we want. Yeah, so this bulgur here is a whole grain. We're using whole grain red bulgur, and we'll see what happens. It's just, it's a traditional grain of the Middle East. And I love this brand, the Bob's Red Mill. It's a real reliable brand. And, it's just pretty bland, I would say, but it's going to add a whole grain to this food item. So you've got vegetables, you've got fiber. There's a little extra protein in the ground turkey because the egg, but also the ground turkey is protein. So that's good. So it's really looking up nice. So we just need that bulgur to finish cooking. So I'm going to show you what a bowl of it would look like. Yeah, the bulgur doesn't, it's just kind of more like little pieces of wheat floating around. So fine. And so here's a bowl. We're going to add a meatball to it. Yeah, be careful. If you put these raw, ground turkey in here and then you put it in the oven, I can't remember if I used that with raw, so I'm not going to take any chances. I'm going to use a fresh spatula to take out the cooked little ground beef or ground turkey balls here. Yeah, so this is what it would look like. I'd probably give you a little bit bigger portion, but I wanted you to be able to see the different ingredients. So it's a nice little soup. And then, you could easily freeze these, put them in a freezer bag. And then, if you're making a little meal and you want to add that to a recipe, like little jasmine rice, a couple of these little meatballs and some vegetables, you can make like a bowl, and have that for another meal or even a snack. So yeah, so that's really it. Remember to eat small, frequent meals and snacks. Get protein with each meal and snack. Get your fluids in. Take a lap around the place just to keep your muscles moving, and then manage any side effects you might have. Usually with the side effects, there's like a trend. You have chemo, and then there's a few days of the side effects, and then the last 2 weeks you kind of bounce back and you can eat more. But everyone's different, what people are experiencing. And then The dietitian at the cancer centers are always available to you. Even if you're not coming in right away and you have a question, you can contact the dietitians. Just call the cancer center and ask to speak to the dietitians. That's what we're there for. Because Living Well has wonderful classes here, like art classes and yoga, and it's all free. And there's a time frame that you can utilize this. So take advantage of it, and you'll be happy that you did.